But what does that mean, Crawford? Did Dark Falz get away again?
Don't worry, everything is fine. Allow me to explain. Currently, we believe that this Dark Falz may have fled into space-time, just like it did before. But this time, it's on the ropes. It has limited regenerative abilities. However, it can only be fully recovered at that dock in Stia's nerve center. Which means it will have to rematerialize at some point.
How do you know all of that?
Lysis's records. And the data that Elma and I put together helped a little. Lysis created detailed records of the battle with Dark Falz that took place in Kavaris 100 years ago. He painted a very clear picture of it. I almost felt like I was there myself while reading those records. Anyway, he wrote a lot about the previous Dark Falz behavior patterns, as well as activity cycles. It sounds like the Ark's defenders of Kavaris had a very hard time dealing with it. And he wrote about how, just when they had dealt lethal damage to it with concentrated fire, it disappeared somewhere for a while. And when it reappeared, the damage had all been repaired somehow. That somewhere was that place in Stia.
Wow. Lysis wrote all that?
Yes, I wasn't quite sure myself until I saw it at Stia's nerve center with my very own eyes. However, we had always thought that Dark Falz and the dolls came from somewhere outside of Alpha. To think those bases were right under our nose the whole time. One can't really help but wonder who built them and when. But I suppose that's not important right now. Our next course of action is quite simple. Once Dark Falz rematerializes from space-time, we hit it with Central Cannon. We've mostly figured out its potential emergence points. It won't get by us unnoticed. But even if it did somehow, we still know where it wants to go. We just need to keep attacking and damaging it. Every little bit helps. It doesn't matter how long it takes, just as long as we win in the end. However, there is one problem. We can't be certain that it will be the same Dark Falz as the one prior to our data collection. It might be completely different, and in ways for which our data cannot account. You know, that is actually fairly likely. It is Dark Falz we're talking about, after all. We have several backup plans, but there's no telling how effective they may be. So, the strength of each Ark's defender is really what it will come down to. So when it does re-emerge, I'd like you to be at the forefront of the fighting, as usual.
What about us?
there's something I'd like you to do. I'll contact you about it later.
Okay, sounds good.
I know, it's been rough, but we're almost there.
Whatever it takes, we'll get it done. Just like we've been doing this whole time. Right?
Can you hear me? Crawford would like to speak with you. Please come to the Central Tower Command Room as soon as possible.
Everyone, thank you all for coming. This is the moment every one of us has been preparing for. To defeat the cruel enemy who mercilessly wiped out so many of our friends that day in Alio Town. To defeat Dark Falz. It must have fled to space-time to recover after we landed a good shot on it from Central Cannon. But it can't fully recover without its dock in Stia. It has to rematerialize at some point. That's when we strike. Now that it's completed, the cannon is a lot more robust. We should be able to fire it several times. But it still takes some time to warm up initially. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do anything about that. Once Dark Falz appears, I need you to keep it busy and buy us some time. You've faced so many obstacles and made it through all of them. Dark Falz is an unimaginably powerful foe. There is no possible way to fully prepare for that kind of strength. But even in the face of such overwhelming odds, I have the utmost faith that we will prevail. Alio, Retem, Kavaris, and Stia, defenders from all 4 regions, are united toward a single goal. As far as we know, this is entirely unprecedented in Halpha's history. The entire planet is united as one for the first time. In order to preserve that unity going forward, this is a battle that we can't afford to lose. I'm asking all of you for your support. I need everyone to stay ready to deploy at a moment's notice. Victory will be ours.
I guess this is it.
Yeah. For the sake of...
Yes?
For the sake of Halpha, we will. We must win.
Yep.
Oh, hey. It's you. How perfect. We were just looking for you. Correct. We're here seeking treatment for the wounded, as well as looking to resupply. Once we complete that, we have but to await their recovery. Wasn't there something you wished to discuss, Commander?
Yeah, there was. You, really helped us out the other day.
Wasn't there more?
We've had a lot of ups and downs during this campaign. We found ourselves constantly wounded and lacking supplies. Even after years of fighting, we hadn't made it to the interior of Stia. Before you three arrived, I was even considering withdrawing from the region. But my troops' morale was still high. I planned on one last offensive before they finally burned out. And then, you three showed up. I had heard rumors. You saved Ritem, and even survived a Dark Falls attack. Then, you even paved the way for the reconstruction of Kavaris. I was skeptical, but I didn't have any other options. So I figured I'd try my luck with the three of you. And we all know how that turned out. Although the battle still isn't over, I need to say this. Thank you.
Yes, I owe you my thanks as well.
It sure is. We haven't secured the entire Stia region yet. And the Doll's plant is still operational. We still have a lot of work to do. Conaway,
Sir,
I'm going to head back now. You oversee the treatment of our wounded and meet me there.
yes, sir. Shocking. The commander almost never gives thanks to anyone. He does express gratitude sometimes, but I don't think I've ever heard him actually say the words, thank you. I suppose that demonstrates how much respect he has for you. Well, I'd better get going now. Let's meet again, soon.
I didn't know you were back in Alio. I hear you completed your assignment in Stia. Yes, that was a surprise. I never would have expected Crawford to strike out for Stia like that. Neil's Stia was Crawford and Glenn's most hated enemy. At first, Crawford said he would let Glenn handle it. But the truth is that he really wanted to settle that old score by Glenn's side. Fortunately, Dahl's activity in Alio at the time was minimal. It was an opportunity that might have never come again. That's why I didn't hesitate to give my blessing to his decision. I'm glad the three of them were finally able to close that chapter of their battle. Crawford, Glenn, and Hibana. I see. Hibana and Glenn were close for a long time. She was always the type who wore her heart right on her sleeve. I'm not saying they were the same, but her straightforwardness was a lot like Ina's. When Glenn and Hibana met Crawford, the three of them started working together. Crawford and Glenn's relationship is still more or less the same as it always was. They've always gotten into it over differences of opinion. And it was always Hibana who would step in to mediate things. She had a knack for finding the compromise and getting them to shake on it. And she was really intuitive. She would just sort of throw a plan together and somehow, it almost always worked out. Which is the exact opposite of Crawford's unrelenting rationality, of course. Yet, they always seemed to get along. All three of them had very different personalities, but they just seemed to mesh with each other. Their teamwork in battle was especially impressive. Glenn would take the front, Crawford brought up the rear, and Hibana would float between them. And the three of them would just chew through the toughest dolls like that. It was a foregone conclusion that those three would one day lead Alio. But then, Hibana's death created a big void. Without her, Crawford and Glenn set off on separate paths that they each thought was best. Now that the score's been settled with Niels Stia, hopefully, that void can finally be filled. Looks like there's some trouble. I think I better get going. We'll finish this chat some other time. Until then.
Oh, I didn't know you were here. No, I was just looking around. It looks like the Ark's defenders here are busy, as usual. At least their staffing and supply situations seem to be a little better. But now that they're operating deep within Stia, I'm sure their responsibilities have increased. And yet, I haven't heard a single complaint from anyone. Each and every one of them has an important role to play, and that keeps their spirits up. I've seen all of this somewhere before. Yeah. Alio Town used to handle the defense of all outlying areas by itself. It was responsible for the entire area on the other side of the mountain from Central City. And, as you know, they did it all with very few Ark's defenders. It was hard enough just to patrol that area, let alone maintain equipment and prepare food. They gave it their all every day. And on top of that, they never knew when dolls might attack. Sometimes, they would be up all night defending against a sudden assault. And yet none of them ever complained or felt sorry for themselves. In fact, it seemed like they enjoyed life to the fullest. I didn't realize it at the time, but they were all so focused on playing their respective parts. And that's why they were able to give their all to everything they did. They never lost sight of their dream for a peaceful world. Now we're the ones who have to carry that torch. And I was reminded of that responsibility just now, while looking at the Stia camp. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go on for so long. So much has happened. Sometimes I overthink everything. What we've been through, and what we will go through. I still need to process all these feelings. I'll see you later.
Oh, it's you. Yeah, this seemed like the perfect spot for it. Edea sure is a crazy place, huh? Nothing but jagged rocks and hardly any trees or grass anywhere. And dolls all over the place. I don't think the old me would have lasted even a single day out here. But here I am, with the two of you, somehow. I guess that means I've gotten a little stronger, right? Really? That means a lot, coming from you. You know, lately, I've been reading Manon's journal a lot. Especially everything she's written about enemies. She writes about stuff like how each enemy behaves, and when they're vulnerable to attack. In the past, I would just sort of skim and get the general idea. But now I really drill down on it and try to find ways to put it into practice. And by doing that, I've kind of come to understand some things. Like about what Manon would do in various situations. I kind of see which scenarios she might have problems with. And I find myself thinking, what would I do in that situation? So I feel like I'm finally starting to find my own fighting style. Yeah, I'm trying out lots of different stuff. I've learned that there's always more than one way of doing things. I wouldn't be where I am now without Manon. I hope I can repay her someday. And you too, of course. That's why I have to keep working hard to keep up with you two. Okay, break time is over. I just thought of a new combat tactic. I can't wait to try it. Well, see you later.
Ah, I didn't know you were here. There are far fewer enemies here now, but we still need to patrol the area. Do you happen to have a moment? Thank you. I have a question. It's in regards to Commander Glenn. In all honesty, what is your impression of him? Huh? Yes, I suppose he is. There is no stronger Arcs defender. I must say, I wasn't quite expecting that answer. He is a man of few words, and that can often be misinterpreted. It can be even more pronounced when he's focused on an operation. But the truth is that he takes very good care of those under his command. He always takes point in enemy territory, and he stays behind to guard our retreat. He says it's the best way to reduce casualties. That's the reason why his troops trust him implicitly. And that deep trust is what allows us all to put our lives on the line for the mission. However, I confess that there are times I wish he was a little more approachable. Especially when he meets new people. A member of the Alio supply unit once shared her impression of the commander with me. She was afraid that she might not make it out in one piece if she were ever to upset him. She was always easygoing with everyone else, yet strangely stiff around the commander. I did think it was strange. But I'm glad it was cleared up before it caused a problem. I believe her name is Citri. If, by some chance, you happen to know her, please reassure her. The commander is not actually scary. He simply looks stern and doesn't speak much. You're one of the very few Ark's defenders that Commander Glenn trusts. I truly hope you'll continue to be someone he can count on. Thanks for everything.
Oh, it's you. Nope. Just out on patrol. There's nothing strange about a commander taking his turn at watch duty. Even if Kanui doesn't like it. Supplies have been getting through to us from Aelio a lot more easily. But we're still short-handed against all these enemies. The fatigue can start to build up. I figure if I've got the energy for it, it makes no sense for me to sit around in a chair all day. That's all there is to it. I'm not. Well, Central didn't. Crawford didn't want me coming here, but I came anyway. The people at this camp are all here because they agree with my vision. I didn't even ask. They all volunteered. Quite a few of them even left behind family in Aelio. They threw away everything they had. Follow me on this crazy mission. I don't intend to just throw them away. They need to be well rested. Give everything they've got to fighting. It's really the least I can do for them. I rest when I can. Well, I need to get back to it. I still have a little way to patrol. I doubt you'll have any problem with the enemies around here. But don't get careless. You never know when dolls might appear. I'm not interested in seeing your name on a memorial anytime soon.